So, the 5th issue of Ultimate Spider-Man is finally released, and I'm here to talk about it. We don't really get much of Spider-Man, but we do get Harry, and this is really exciting actually, because we have his origin story now. The comic opens with Norman Osborn talking to his wife Emily. They seem to be having a bit of an argument, but not really. They're talking about how Harry's late. This seems to be a typical thing, and Norman starts to talk about how much power their name holds. And so Harry ends up calling Norman, explaining why he's late, but Norman doesn't want to hear any of it. He starts telling Harry that he needs to grow up and that he's acting like a child. And in this moment, a bright light starts to shine in the sky, and it turns out to be a giant, missile, laser. I don't necessarily know what it is, but it blows up the building that Norman is in. This is how Norman dies, and also how Aunt May dies, including Emily too. And now we cut to a few weeks later, where Harry's talking to Norman's personal attorney. They're discussing his inheritance. They're basically talking about how he's going to inherit the company. But the important thing that happens is the attorney gives Harry this card that has a chess piece that is a king on it. If you don't know, that means Kingpin wants to talk to him. So naturally, Harry ends up going to this meeting to talk to Kingpin. The gist of what they talked about is essentially Fisk owns Stane and Stark, so he wants to sell Stark and Stane to Harry Osborn. Harry ends up taking this deal and buys Stark from him. About 2 weeks later, Harry has a private scientist cutting a hole through what seems to be an impenetrable titanium room. This scientist being Dr. Otto Octavius. When this hole is finally cut, Harry, Otto, and Gwen enter it. When they enter it, they see 3 bodies of armor, being Tony Stark's armor, aka Iron Man. Most of what this scene is Otto being intrigued by all the different technology that's in there, because it's all powered by an arc reactor and all this advanced shit that he just hasn't found yet. And so Gwen and Harry start talking about NDAs for Otto, so that he doesn't speak about what's in this room outside of the room. A few weeks later, there's a new suit built, and that's Green Goblin's suit. Harry hired Otto to build his suit for him, using all the materials in this room. He starts explaining basically all the specs that are on the suit, the bombs he made, and the glider. That's what it's called. I'm tripping. But Harry asks what this ball is, and what it is, what we know it is a similar thing to what Spider-Man had got when he got his powers in this story. So what I believe this room is to make Tony Stark a hero again, because the Maker prevented all heroes from being created in this story. So I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that ball was Tony Stark's way to become Iron Man. So essentially, the Green Goblin wasn't supposed to happen this way in this story, but this is how it happened. But Harry's missing all this context, so because this is before he met Spider-Man at all. So now we cut to 3 months before present time, where Spider-Man is fighting Shocker and he gets shocked away. This is where we really get to see Harry's kind of an anti-hero. After Shocker's laughing about shocking Peter away, Harry comes in his Green Goblin suit, and he says, "I think you have something that doesn't belong to you." Shocker gets defensive, and Harry just turns it off because he's using all the technology that was used in that Stark room. So Shocker's confused, and Harry explains, "If you tell me where you got these things, you can keep the money." Which is, I don't know. I think that really shows that he's an anti-hero and not really a hero, because he kind of has a personal vendetta against all of this. He's doing this for alternate reasons rather than to be a hero, which is his father's death. So what Shocker explains is he was going to rob this guy's apartment, and he sees a hologram of Tony Stark, which he believes to be a terrorist because of the attack that had happened on Norman's building. He says that Tony was talking a bit, and then the box opened up to show some gloves. He ended up putting them on and becoming the Shocker. While Harry's pondering about this and kind of thinking out loud, the Shocker ends up striking him in the face. Harry ends up saying, "Was that supposed to hurt?" And the Shocker ends up profusely apologizing, while Harry ends up taking the gloves. About a month later, this is when Harry and Peter met. They end up having the drink that was talked about in the issue before the last issue, I believe. And essentially what they talk about is how Peter got his powers, and how Tony Stark appeared and told him that he was destined to be a hero, and that, you get the gist. If you've read the stories, you know. And they end up doing like a little cheers and say that's what heroes do. Now we're in the present day, and the Green Goblin is interrogating Bullseye. And Bullseye essentially says this whole world is controlled, which is nothing we don't already know. It's controlled by the Maker. And Harry just wants answers, and he doesn't care how long it's going to take. And basically, they just have a little bit of banter about how Harry is lost and doesn't know what he is yet, a boy or a man, because that's what his father talked about. And he puts on the helmet and says, I guess we're about to find out. I'm really happy with how the Ultimate Spider-Man has been going. It really makes me happy that Marvel is letting Jonathan Hickman have almost full creative freedom with what he's doing, and you can tell it's something original, and that's what people really want. A lot of what's going on in the industry, it lacks a lot of originality, which is what makes Ultimate Spider-Man so good, is because it's its own story, and it's not trying to be anything but its own story, which is what I really appreciate about it, because, you know, there's not a lot of comics where there isn't editorial interference, and I think they just care less about the Ultimate the series. I guess they give a lot more freedom with it compared to the 616. I don't even read the 616. I don't even consider 616 my Spider-Man or whatever. I honestly prefer Ultimate Spider-Man, the 2000s one. So that's just me personally, but I'm really happy that Hickman is doing something different, and we're getting to see fresh takes on things, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. I also picked up House of X by Hickman, and I'm starting to dive really deep into his world that he has created himself. I think the next thing I'm gonna get is Ultimate Invasion, and we'll go from there. All right, peace.